Good evening. I hope you're ready. Hell, I hope I'm ready. To be real honest, I got to put out a couple of quick disclaimers about tonight's show, just so that we're perfectly clear. Number one, language. I can't say I'm gonna cuss like a sailor, and I sure can't promise you that I'm not. But I don't misunderstand me. I don't cuss like a sailor. There could be a few words slip. The other thing is, I want you all out there in YouTube land to understand that 99.9% of the things that I say tonight have nothing to do with any of you. Absolutely nothing. And I think it's important I say that because I often forget to include important tidbits, and you know, that's one of them that you need to know. Okay, I thought I turned that down, but anyway, I got two real quick things before we get into the topic at hand that I want to quickly go over. First off, I want to thank Bear Independent for recommending this book. The title of it's The Complete Apocrypha, and he had recommended it on one of his shows. He recommended two books. This is one of the two books, and I haven't had a chance to really dive deep into it or anything like that. However, I will. You can bet yourself that. I've already read all of the lost books, if you will, whatever it is you may call them, the lost books of the Bible, I call them the missing books of the Bible, not the lost ones. I call them the missing. But from what I thumbed through it earlier, it looks very comprehensive. It looks like it's fairly well done, and I've read them all, but in digital format. I've never had a physical book of the Apocrypha, and now I do. So I do plan on getting the other one as well that he recommended. Highly recommend. I'm showing you that way if you're interested, you know what the book looks like. So just you could go to Amazon and search The Complete Apocrypha, and it's like $16 some odd cents, I do believe. That's what it looks like. So the other thing is, this is kind of humorous. I got an email earlier from YouTube, and this is hilarious. And so you guys know I just started a new channel, the Dirt Cheap Preps channel, and in order for me to be able to use the advanced features of the Dirt Cheap Preps channel, I had to do like one of three things. One of them was just like wait until so many video uploads and so much time so they could kind of see a trend. Another one was to send in a copy, I guess, I guess uploaded into their system a copy of my ID. And then the other option that I chose was to take a short video, and it basically was a facial recognition video, to take a short video for them. And that's the option I chose, because if you think that they, those, them don't have your facial recognition information, you're just silly. So I just went ahead and went with that. And anyway, so they had said, when I made the video, they had said that, you know, after some time they'll delete the video and all of that. So today, not that long ago, I got an email, and it was Google/YouTube, letting me know, as you see, that your video verification has been deleted from your account. Now, here's the interesting thing. It says the video verification you submitted to be able to use advanced YouTube features is no longer needed. Your video has been deleted from your Google account. Okay, fair enough. All right, it's all done and over, right? Just brush my hands off and it's all finished. But then the next paragraph says, however, I love how they use, however, if you're suspended from YouTube for violating our policies, we may save your video and facial recognition data for a period of time so that we can enforce our policies. But wait, I thought you deleted it. Interesting predicament. So anyway, I thought I would share that. I thought that was rather comical. I wonder how many people catch that, how many people don't catch that. But I thought it was humorous nonetheless. So anyway, let me have a sip of coffee here and we'll get started. By the way, I've gotten nowhere on the Dirt Cheap Preps website, so that's a thing. Or I should say that's not a thing. Okay. I reckon let's do this. And I've just got very few things written down, like very, very few things. And the reason why is because for every one thing I tell you, there's going to be 5 billion things that I don't think to tell you. So I wished I would have started on this earlier today and really thought about it, but I didn't even know what I was going to do the show about. I prayed about it, and I got my reply, so here we are. Again, I will reiterate, 99.9% of what I have to say has nothing to do with you if you're watching this. Most likely. I don't know. I don't know who's all going to see this, but most of you, nah. If you're watching this and you went to school with me or been involved in my personal life, then there's a chance you might be part of this. But if you haven't been involved in my personal life, it's safe to say that, nah. So, ever since I was a child, I've only known, really, turmoil in one form or another. And one of my issues is I wore my heart on my sleeve. And that is something that would cause me issues throughout my entire life, and frankly still does. And I would often get really upset when something wasn't right. I'm a very principled, very principled. I mean, things are supposed to be a certain way. You're supposed to treat others a certain way. They're supposed to treat you a certain way. That's just how it is. And it's probably safe to say that the things that anger me most are the same very things that anger the Father. Same things. And if you pay attention, you'll see that. And I don't mean pay attention tonight. I mean overall. You'll see that. So, as a child, I guess the first thing that I recall is that I had noticed that I had abilities, I had skills that were beyond explanation. No, I'm not talking about any type of magic voodoo type of stuff. I'm talking about physical abilities. I'm talking about mental knowledge that I still don't know how the hell I had. I was either 4 or 5 years old, and I've talked about this story before. But I was either 4 or 5 years old, and my parents went to a yard sale and brought me home a little. Oh, today they're like Power Wheels. Okay, you would think of a Power Wheels. Well, this was a motorcycle. This was a little motorized motorcycle, a ride-on motorcycle, and it took a 6-volt lantern battery, for those that remember what those big blocky things were. And they brought it home, and they just thought, well, I'll hop on it and I'll just push it around everywhere, right? So they brought it inside, and they proceeded to go outside over to the neighbor's house and sit in lawn chairs in the front yard and talk with the neighbors, because that's what people used to do. Now, again, I can't tell you if I was 4 or 5, but it was one of the two. And while they were out there and I was inside, left to my own devices, both literally and figuratively, I decided that I was going to get that motorcycle to work. So I went around the house and I started grabbing Dad's flashlights. Why? Because they had batteries in them. I don't mean the big bulky 6-volt lantern battery flashlight. I'm talking about D-cells. D-cell flashlights. And somehow, at that age, I knew how to count, and I knew how to create a basic electrical circuit. How can I say that? Well, somehow I knew that it was going to take me 4 batteries to equal that 6 volts to be able to power that. I can't tell you how. The other thing was, I went and literally got tape and taped together batteries. Taped a piece of foil on the bottom of the batteries and taped the terminals that you would have normally clipped in the little spring clips on the 6-volt lantern battery, taped them to the top of those batteries. I knew to flip one set of the batteries so that they'd be reverse polarity. I knew all this. How? How? That question, believe it or not, haunted me for a large part of my life. Doesn't haunt me anymore. I know how. Now I do. But for a good part of my life, I had no idea. And it literally bothered me why I didn't know. And after I did what I did, I pulled the thing out onto the sidewalk in front of the house and wrote it. Again, that really bothered me for a long time. Let me explain why. Because it didn't stop there. I always had these skills, this knowledge of how to do things with my hands, how to fix things, how to understand things. But what I didn't understand is how the hell I had all this knowledge. And it would eat at me, and eat at me. And the reason why I think it ate at me the most is because I had such a low self-esteem, and I couldn't understand why me. I honestly felt like it was a waste. All that ability, all that knowledge, all that was just a waste. Why me? And that tortured me for quite a while. It really did. There's a number of things I've done throughout my life. 5th grade, I was front page newspaper because we did model rockets in the 5th grade. And I remember the teacher saying, we may not all be able to launch rockets that day because we may not have enough time. We may run out of time. Maybe everybody won't be able to launch their rocket. Well, I was really excited about my rocket, and I wanted to make damn sure that I got to launch my rocket on Rocket Day. So what did I do? I built my own rocket launcher. And I took it to school that day. So that way I knew that I would at least get a chance to launch my rocket. That teacher I can even remember, she argued with me as to whether or not I had help building that. I didn't have help. In fact, what I had was a frustrated dad because I got into his stuff and took one of his switches, and a frustrated mom because I took one of her Tupperware bowls and drilled holes in it. That's what I had. Other than that, I built it entirely myself without any input whatsoever. That has been a large part of my life and the way I've been able to do things, and it is what it is. I don't know. But this entire time that I kept asking the question, why me? Why would you waste all of this on me? I only heard one thing over and over and over, or at least one thought, one idea. And that is, there's something very big that's going to happen in your life. And I need you. And I kept hearing that. Anytime I would ask the question, why me? That might have been just as haunting as the questions to why I had the abilities that I did. I don't know. But I don't know. I don't want to say I had a bad childhood, because I didn't have a bad childhood. I had a roof over my head. I had food in my belly. I had parents that I guess loved me. My dad was a very, very rough character. Very rough character. My mom, I see a lot more now than I did then. I thought then that my mom was the world. She was the one that would protect me whenever my dad was being an ass. And boy, he was good at that. And so I always thought that my mom was on my side and my dad hated my guts. That's how I felt through actually most of my life, going on up into adulthood. It wasn't until I was in my 30s that I realized that my dad was just trying to teach me something, and my mom was nothing but a liar and a traitor. And talk about feeling betrayal. That's why I've got nothing for her today. Nothing. Nothing in me. No love. No nothing. And I mean it. Believe me, goes way beyond that. She actually actively came in between me and my oldest son and caused so much turmoil between him and I that I haven't spoke with him since 2013. And I'd love to. I would love to be able to see all of my children. It's crazy. So, getting older and going throughout my teenage years, I had a lot of turmoil with that. And largely a lot of that was it was my fault, but at the same time, I didn't know any better. Let me explain. My family were pretty private. My dad was really private. They didn't go and hang out with people. I mean, they might go to the neighbor's house or something like that and sit down and talk, or maybe even play a little cards or something like that. But it wasn't real often. They didn't really go get involved in anything to do with the town or anything like that, any types of groups, clubs, anything like that. They lived pretty private. I grew up just on the outside of town. So the only kids that I saw outside of school were in the immediate neighborhood, and there was like, I don't know, 6, 7, something like that houses there in the little strip. And for the most part, the kids that lived there in that little group of houses was about the extent of my exposure to society, aside from school. So I had that kind of going against me socially. And then I had the fact that I was just an oddball. I didn't see things, and to this day I don't see things the way most people do. My mind approaches things from a much different angle, and always has. I don't know why. That's just another one of those quirks about me. And there were a lot of things like my friends in high school and stuff were involved in that I really didn't want much to do with. Anything from the drinking. I've never been a drinker, never wanted to be a drinker. I really didn't care to be around drinking, period. But yet I hung out with the stoner kids, so to speak, and most of my friends at one point or another became alcoholics. And so the more they started drinking, the less I hung out with them because I didn't want to be around it. Well, this is kind of a small community, and drinking is one of the big things that kids used to do. So I was an outcast just simply because I didn't want to drink. And that pissed me off, to be honest, because it made no sense to me. And another one of the things that I can remember getting made fun of for is because I wouldn't play any of the stupid little games that they played. Back when I was in high school, there was a game they played, they called Bloody Knuckles, to where you took a comb and you racked it across your knuckles really, really hard. I don't really get it, what the point was. There was another game, and I'm not sure who was the winner on the Bloody Knuckles. I don't know. I thought that was stupid. The other one I recall was where you took a lit cigarette. We were all smokers. You take a lit cigarette and you put it on your wrist, and whoever flinched first or whatever, whoever knocked it off first was the one who lost. Yeah, I thought it was incredibly stupid. And I voiced my opinion about it then, you know. Oh, you pussy. No, you retard. I ain't doing it. I told you, I warned you about the language. And that literally is how they treated me. That's how they called me, and that's exactly how I retorted to them. I've always been a no bullshit person. And if you come at me with a bunch of crap, you're going to get it back. Probably tenfold. Again, I was always an outcast, and that was kind of frustrating to me, to be honest, because a lot of the people that would disrespect me, I'd never done anything to. Never done a damn thing to. That's not me. That's not my nature. I don't get my rocks off of harming others. In fact, I find it quite disgusting. But I've got actually a recent example of my past coming back. I actually have a recent example. My brother contacted me. I only speak to one person in my family, my oldest brother. He's the only one that I even care to speak to. And so he contacted me the other morning, and he's got some business dealings with the guy that I think he's a little older than me. I remember him from high school. Guy's about 450 pounds, if I recall right, named Donnie Main. I don't mind calling people out. And so my brother said something to me about, he had brought up something about how I said I was going to put a train engine in a car when I was in high school. Well, this is kind of a small town, got a lot of small town, small-minded attitudes here. And I don't remember ever saying anything about a train engine in a car. And if I did, I would have probably said something like it would have been cool to put a train engine in a car, not that I'm going to put one in a car. I was into high performance cars. I was into a lot of horsepower muscle cars, that kind of thing. And I just find it incredibly amazing that over 30 years later, this piece of crap is still talking about a rumor that isn't even true. Blows my mind. Blows my mind. Don't these losers have anything better to do in their life? Guess not. So, I do remember one, though. I do remember one rumor that people had started involving cars and performance. I was talking one time in shop class. I said, you know what would be cool? Because it was illegal to have NOS on your car, right? You couldn't run NOS on the street on your car. And I made the comment, it would really be cool to retrofit the filter dryer for the air conditioner on a car as a storage tank for NOS. That way you pop your hood, you wouldn't really know anything was out of order because it would look stock, right? And of course the rumor started that I said I had NOS in my car. Never said I had NOS in my car. I said it would be cool to retrofit a air conditioner's filter dryer to hold NOS so you could run it on the street and it would look stock. But things like that really pissed me off. And rightfully so. Again, don't these people have anything better to do? And this is why I'm not a fan of society. Because I've put up with this all throughout my life. All throughout my life. Including right on up till today. I guess another thing that has hardened me is different experiences that I've gone through. And I know we've all got our experience and stuff like that. I'm not saying my life was any harder than anybody else's or any, that's not at all remotely what I'm talking about. What I am saying is that I have had some experiences that to this day I have had problems dealing with. And today I'm a lot more at peace, but I still have questions. I still have animosity a little bit. One of the experiences off the top of my head was a friend of mine. And I'll just say Chuck. That's his name, but not going to give his whole name, his whole life story. He was staying overnight at where I was living at the time, and I've mentioned this story I think once or twice too. And him and his girlfriend and their children, they had two daughters. One of them was a 6-month-old baby girl. And they were staying the night. And, we were young, crazy. We partied and all that. So we, had fun that night. Not anything massive or anything, don't get me wrong. I wasn't a drinker. I wasn't into all that stuff. So it wasn't nothing crazy. And so I went to bed. They went to bed. And the next morning, I get woke up, and the first time I didn't actually wake up because I thought I was dreaming, But the second time that they woke me up, I was up. And all I could hear them screaming was, "Brianna's dead." That was the 6-month-old baby girl. And so I got up, jumped up to my feet, ran into the living room. The child was laying on a chair. I mean, there was nothing wrong about anything that anybody did at all. And so the first thing I did was got down on the floor next to the chair, and I scooped my hands underneath the baby and lifted the baby up to get the baby on the floor so that I could go to work. Well, instantly at that moment, I knew it was a hopeless cause, because rigor mortis had already started to set in. But that didn't matter to me. What mattered to me is I had a best friend and his wife and their other daughter right in the same living room. I had to try. I had to do something. And so I went about trying to administer CPR as I gave orders. I don't know why I had to. I don't know. I don't know. As I gave orders to call 911 because nobody had done it yet. So I continued to do CPR on a child that I knew there was no chance that I was going to be able to bring back. And as soon as the EMTs, paramedics got there, I grabbed their other daughter. I can't remember what her age was off the top of my head. But I grabbed her and we went outside. We went outside for a walk and a talk. And one second. Okay. Have to get back with her momentarily. So I just basically I wanted to remove her from the situation, get her out of there, and get her mind anywhere but what was going on in that home. And so, all this time, and I still haven't had my chance to cope with what was going on. And boy, I'll tell you what, after I was able to give the older child back to the parents and have my own moment, that was rough. And I can honestly say that that's the maddest I have ever been in my entire life. I have never been that mad before, and I've never been that mad since. And what made it so much worse is there was no one to be mad at. All this anger, and there's nowhere to go with it. That made a big impact on me. And I didn't even think about talking about this, but let me show you a little bit of frustration here. So this was a big deal to me. Of course, the child, the child passed away from SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. And so I started reading up about SIDS. I was trying to figure out, okay, what's going on, what happens, how do we fix the problem? That's all I'm interested in, is how do we fix the problem? How do we fix this? And so I started reading about studies about how, as far as they could tell, if there was some type of a stimulus that happened to the child while they were in that mode, in going through a SIDS death, that if there was some type of a stimulus, that often it was enough to be able to get the child's involuntary actions to start again, the breathing, the heart beating. It would just take a stimulus, like a loud noise, like a touch, just some type of stimulus. And I automatically, that's easy. That's easy. Why couldn't you put something on to monitor the child, and if their heartbeat stopped, and at that time, shortly before that, I had dated a woman that had a friend that was deaf. And one of the things that I had found out about that he used for his everyday daily life was, for an alarm clock, he had this disc that he put underneath his pillow that vibrated real hard. And that's what he used for an alarm clock. That's what woke him up, was that vibrating disc. And so I instantly started linking the components together, and it's like, okay, so you monitor the heart rate. If there's a loss of heart rate, you blare a siren, and you vibrate one of these discs. 2 different types of stimuli at the same time. Do you know nobody was interested in that? And do you know why? I had somebody tell me, and I'm not going to name the company, but I had somebody tell me from a major medical company flat out, nobody's ever going to touch that because of the possible lawsuits. If somebody uses that device and it doesn't work, then the company can be sued. So let me get this straight. So in other words, because somebody might be lost, somebody may not make it, nobody can benefit from it? This is how our medical system works? So you see, from a young age, I learned just what our medical system is all about. It's about profit. It's not about health. It's not about helping you. It's about making money. And by the way, that comment doesn't even have anything to do with what we're seeing today. I'm talking about from way back when. I had figured that out. I didn't even realize, like a quarter till. Wow, I think I was going on for so long already. And I've got a little bit more to cover here, so. I had mentioned earlier, and I'll try to brief it up a little bit. I'll try. I mentioned earlier about the one surefire way to understand what makes me mad is by looking at the things that make him mad. And that's certainly the case. I've got my user manual for people here. And let me just real quick, I've got a page marked in here, and we're not going to turn this into Bible story time, so don't worry. But I do have a little bit of something here that I want to mention to be able to explain to you at least part of what makes me angry. What makes me an ass. So, in the good book, let me find exactly where I can cut into it at here. Okay, so we're going to start at Genesis chapter 18, verse 23. Okay, and I'm not going to read a lot. Again, this isn't Bible story time or anything like that. But it says, in Abraham, mind you, I'm reading out of the scriptures, and I do refer to the Father as his actual name, so you know. It says, and Abraham drew near and said, would you also destroy the righteous with the wrong? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Would you also destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous that were in it? Far be it from you to act in this way, to slay the righteous with the wrong, so that the righteous should be as the wrong. Far be it from you. Does the judge of all the earth not do right? And Yahweh said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous people within the city, then I shall spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, look, please, I am but dust and ashes, have taken it upon myself to speak to Yahweh. Suppose there are 5 less than the 50 righteous. Would you destroy all the city for the lack of 5? And he said, if I find there 45, I do not destroy it. And he spoke to him, and yet again, and said, suppose there are found 40. And he said, I would not do it for the sake of 40. And he said, let not Yahweh be displeased, and let me speak. Suppose there found 30. And he said, I would not do it if I found 30 there. And he said, look, please, I have taken upon myself to speak to Yahweh. Suppose there are found 20. And he said, I would not destroy it for the sake of 20. And he said, let not Yahweh be displeased, and let me speak only this time. Suppose there are found 10. And he said, I would not destroy it for the sake of 10. Then Yahweh went away as soon as he had ended speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his palace. I'm sure there are a few of you out there that know how that goes. I'm sure there are a few of you out there that know that none could be found. Not one. Why am I angry? Because I can't find one. Oop, hang on. There we go. Sorry about that. Because I can't find one. Not one. And I try. I try. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I'm one, because I'm not. But how could I ask the Father? How could I pray to the Father to not destroy it when I already know the answer? My motivation. I didn't realize, I had told you earlier about how when I was a child I kept having a voice tell me about how I would be here for a very important time and that I was needed for that time. There's a whole lot of that didn't make sense when I was young. A whole lot of my life that didn't make sense until the latter years when stuff started to kind of click together a little bit. For some reason, I have the uncanny ability to understand things, to comprehend. My comprehension skills are mind-blowing. So are my pattern recognition. I've talked about that. And it's been this way for as long as I remember. And it's just been one of those natural abilities. I can't sit here and say that I did this and this and this to build my, skill. No, I've just been able to do it. On the same note that, I had mentioned things not so positive about my mother and stuff. Let me tell you what, I was no, I was no blessing myself, okay? I was too smart for my own good. I was too hard-headed. I was too stubborn. And probably still am. But I'm trying to think of where I was necessarily going with that. Sorry. Again, I get a million thoughts that run through my head. I was talking about my motivation. I knew there was something to that voice. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that there was something to that voice. And I was, said this many times on the show, I was actually atheist up into my 30s. And the reason why is because I was raised Southern Baptist. It's not like we went to church every Sunday or anything like that, but I got the gist of it. And I was somewhat familiar with the Catholic beliefs and all that, and it was real easy to poke holes in it. Real easy. And so, I'm like, well, okay, if these folks aren't even following what this book says, then why am I supposed to believe these folks about this book? That seemed pretty logical to me, right? And so that's why I pushed the whole thing, I threw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing. And it wasn't until later, until I had a hell of an experience that woke me to the Father and eventually led me to understand a lot of things, why I went through different things in my life, why it is that I had the abilities that I did. And I'd also been shown a bit about what's to come. That's also a part of what makes me angry. Because I've seen a glimpse of how rough it's going to be. That's what frustrates me when I mention other YouTube channels, the prepper channels and stuff like that, and some of them are clearly misleading others. And that's why I speak out. Because as I've said on this show before, it's not a game. It's not a game. Perhaps we shouldn't treat it like it is. Perhaps we shouldn't treat it like it's just a money-making opportunity and turn it into a profit. Perhaps. Perhaps when you tell people that you care about them, when you love them, that you want to help them, that you mean it. And you're just not trying to blow smoke up their ass so they'll buy the products that you make money off of or whatever. Or continue to watch the videos so that you make more YouTube money. Whatever the case. And I'm one of those people that will address things head on. I'm not going to be mealy-mouthed. I'm not going to be some beta male. I'm not going to be some weak person. And I think honestly that is largely what a lot of people misjudge in me. Because I try to be, as much as possible, I try to be a passive person. I try to be nice. I try to be kind. But there comes a point that when somebody steps on you, that it's time to stop being that way back. Well, unfortunately, in today's world, there's a lot of people out there that will pick at you. And then the moment that you defend yourself, well, automatically, they're the victim and you're the bad guy. Regardless of how long and what they've done to you, automatically, they're the bad guy. Oh, you're the bad guy, I mean. And it always blows my mind. That's an experience that I've dealt with for a large part of my life because I try to be passive. I try to just let things go. But to me, one of the biggest forms of disrespect to somebody is lying to them or misleading them. To me, that is one of the biggest forms of disrespect you can have for somebody. You can be, best friends with somebody and still disrespect them or them disrespect you in the worst way imaginable, and that's by a forked tongue. Still had that quite a bit off. Excuse with the lighting if I don't have it angled just right. Probably the biggest misconception of me or mistake is thinking that I won't come out fighting. I'll tell you what, anybody that remotely thinks that I ain't got fire inside of me has no idea who I am. Not too many people that do really know me, to be honest. Not very many at all. Even my best friends throughout school and largely throughout my life really had no idea really what made me tick or who I was, because I don't talk about myself, but I am an extremely, and I mean extremely private person. I'm one of those people, I don't want to all up in anybody else's business. I don't want them up in my business. I'm not doing anything to bother anybody or harm anybody or anything like that. I just want to do my thing, and most of the time my thing simply means learning, tinkering, fixing things. That's what I like doing. I'm not up to all kinds of nonsense and all of that kind of stuff. So when somebody attacks my character, it's kind of like, what? Again, like I said earlier, I have no idea. A fair amount of people, I can't say most, a fair amount of people of this very town that I live in can't stand my guts. I've never done a damn thing to them. The one thing I won't do, as I said a little bit earlier, is I won't let somebody bullshit me. I'll call them out right to my face, or to their face. Just is the way it is. I'm not going to let somebody sit there and bullshit me or lie to me. I'm not. That's, again, the highest form of disrespect. And I guess that makes me a bad guy. Because I won't let people lie to me. I won't let people lie about me. And I think one of the most frustrating things about all that is people pick up that on me pretty quick. People pick up pretty quick that I'm not one to back down. And that I'm going to call them out. And the reason why that's frustrating is because there's a lot of individuals that'll talk smack, but they won't ever allow me to address them. For one, because they have to do it behind the backs. They can never do it in person. And it frustrates me Because again, things that frustrate the Father frustrate me. And biblically, to do that, to treat somebody like that, you can look it up in the Bible, is the same as murdering them. Literally. The same as murdering them. And I would love to be able to give them the respect of addressing them to their face. But I don't think it'd ever happen. I've got so many things throughout my life that I'd like to be able to address directly to the people involved. But they'll never give me the chance. Why? Well, I mean, if you lived in a house full of lies, wouldn't you run? I imagine I would. Probably shouldn't build your house on lies. I'm an ass because if I'd had been given half the chances throughout my life that I deserved, I'd probably be a hell of a lot further than where I am today. But because of my honesty, because of my direct communication, people want to walk a wide path around it. That's frustrating. Because all I want to do is be an honest person, put in my honest work, help out as much as I possibly can. And here I get my hands chopped off in every area that I want to try to help. All because people are worried about their bullshit being called out. It's a frustrating feeling. It's a frustrating feeling. But I'd rather walk alone than accept things that the Father just isn't going to have. And I will walk alone if I have to. It is what it is. And that leads directly into my motivation. I'm not somebody that can sit here and recite to you scripture upon scripture upon scripture. I'm not one of those people that can do it, but I can damn well explain to you what it means. And one of the patterns that I've recognized in life is that you have those people that can recite scripture, and then you have those people that understand it. But typically you'll never find the two in one person. Interesting. And it's true. I'm not saying everybody. I'm not saying there's not one. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying there's a distinct pattern of that. Of individuals that can sit there and tell you word for word what the Bible says, have no clue how to live it. Or they're constantly looking for loopholes to get themselves in and around and out of trouble with it. And then you have those that can't sit there and remember a single verse, but they can sit there and explain to you what the Father's intent was. With accuracy. You know, I always thought that was interesting. But that's my motivation. My motivation is to try to help as much as I possibly can to use that skills and knowledge that I've been blessed with. And don't mistake my words. that I have been blessed with. Because that's the only way to describe it. All I want to do is use that knowledge and skills to help people and help carry forward the word and, most importantly, the intent of the Father, which is a far cry from even what we see the churches leading their flock. Somebody's got to do it. I've walked much of this life pretty much alone as it is. I'll be 50 in May. I ain't got that much further to go. Might as well walk the rest of it. Why am I an ass? I don't know. Big part of it is I miss my boys. I haven't seen any of them. I haven't seen my oldest since 2013, and I haven't seen the younger two since 2014. Not a damn thing I can do. Unless I win the lottery. And I guess as a white American God-fearing man, I'm just supposed to accept it and sit back in my place, and that's what society expects me to do. You think I'm wrong? You can go look at my Facebook. I don't bring it up often, but when I do, nobody would touch it with a 10-foot pole. Nobody wants to talk about what the family court systems are doing to men. They avoid that like the plague. Because the moment that you recognize it, well, then you might have to address it. And that's bigger than a lot of people want to think. And I don't speak out on it for just my behalf. I speak out on it for the behalf of the millions of men in this country going through the same thing. Because we have a corrupt system. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. Then you sit there and you see jackasses like I had talked about the other day in conversation on Facebook post about that officer-involved shooting in L.A. in which 14-year-old girl had lost her life, and you've got individuals that just cast off that 14-year-old's life like it's no big deal because they had to get the perp. These pieces of crap have no idea what it's like to lose a child. There's many different ways to lose a child. You know, the last person that you want to go to for advice about something is someone that's never been through it. You wouldn't want to go and ask parental advice from somebody that's never been a parent. At least I would hope not. You wouldn't want to go ask golf advice from somebody that's never played the game. At least I would hope not. So why in the hell do people think that they have so much room to speak on matters that they've never had to deal with? Stuff like that frustrates me to no end. See, I don't sit there and try to figure out which ways I could put one person's life above the other person's life, or find that pretty disgusting. So yeah, I'm angry. Not angry in the way that most people would think of anger. I'm not running around screaming. I don't have a bad attitude. I'd rather not listen to complain. I can't stand complaining. Cannot stand it. I can't stand negativity. I'd rather not be around it. Because I don't want to live that way. I want to try to appreciate the things that I do have. I want to try to work harder to achieve more. I damn well don't want to sit and focus on what's wrong. I mean, doing the news is one thing. That's not focusing on what's wrong. Focusing on what's wrong would be if I picked something from the news and sat there and bitched and complained and moaned about it all day, which I don't do. My motivation, above all else, just to try to help. It angers me at the amount of people throughout my entire life that I'd never done a damn thing to harm that's wanted to hold me back. It's frustrating. Anyway, I don't know if I got out what he wanted me to get out. I have no idea. I don't know if there's somebody out there that I could have possibly helped with all the nonsense that I had just talked about. But I hope so. Because that's all I want to do is help. At the same time, I want people to leave me the fuck alone. Because I damn well don't set out to harm them. Anyway, let's do some of that stuff that we're supposed to be here for, huh? Where do I want to start? I'm just going to start up here and go through. Hang on a minute. Had stuff in the way of my button. Come on. Well, that button's not going to work. Let me use that button. There we go. I'm just going to go through these. I don't even know if I quite got everything together. There's not a lot of headlines today, so I'm going to go through these, and then we'll read the regular headline ordeal, and we'll be done for the week. And by the way, there's probably about 50 billion things that I forgot to mention in my little talk, but that is what it is. Hang on, gotta yell at a dog. Okay. Major North American oil producer to end crude exports. Says Mexico will suspend crude oil exports in 2 years in a bid to focus on domestic self-sufficiency, various media have reported. The move is part of President Andre Manuel Lopez Obrador's plan to increase local fuel production to reduce dependence on imported fuels. The export phase-out announcement was made by the chief executive of Pemex, Octavio Romero, who also said that Mexico would reduce oil exports from next year by more than 50% to 435,000 barrels per day. So this is something to certainly keep an eye on. At the same time, it's no reason to start running around the house screaming and flailing your arms and all that stuff, because they're not just cutting it off tomorrow, okay? We really kind of need to get our heads out of our butts in this country, and I'm not talking about you and I. I'm talking about those that make the decisions. And we really do need to start thinking about energy independence once again, and maybe trying to produce some of our own energy, and I don't know, maybe being able to transport that energy. I don't know what the hell people are thinking, but I think more and more you're going to see different countries start to curb their exports and start to keep more for themselves, because I don't think they're going to have a choice. I think in order for each individual country to function, I think they're going to have to rely more on their own resources, and so I think this is going to be a growing trend, not just in the energy sector, but in the agriculture sector and just everywhere. And I think you're really going to see that. I think you're going to really start seeing an agriculture crunch come very quick like. So I'm actually more concerned about that than what I am a fuel crunch. So China warns against crossing red lines in Taiwan. It says China's Taiwan Affairs Office has warned the self-governed island against pushing for independence, promising not to hold back if separatist forces cross red lines in an attempt to block reunification. Ma Zhaogong, I'm sure I really didn't even get close to that, a spokesperson for the agency, which is responsible for implementing Beijing's policies related to the island, said on Wednesday that China would have to take drastic measures should separatist forces in Taiwan seeking independence provoke, exert force, or even break through any red line. While the spokesman has not clarified exactly what red lines Taipei should not cross, he denounced external intervention in China's affairs, including its attempts to reunite the island. Such foreign meddling and provocations by Taiwan's own pro-independence forces are bound to become sharper and more intense over the next few months, the spokesman said, predicting that the already tense situation in the region would flare up, growing more complex and severe. So this is certainly, again, I don't know, I wouldn't call this an escalation. I would call it a reaffirmation more than anything. Hang on, I gotta have a vape. All right. U.S. media reports claim China deep in brain warfare research. Says here, during the last few years, a research institute in China has been busy developing weapons that would be able to paralyze enemies rather than killing them, U.S. media reports claim. The Washington Times translated and analyzed 3 2019 reports by the People's Liberation Army, which had been published in the official military newspaper PLA Daily. The American paper says these documents shed light on the depths of China's brain warfare research and show that it has been underway for several years. I guess we're supposed to expect that we're not doing the same thing. War has started to shift from the pursuit of destroying bodies to paralyzing and controlling the opponent. Kind of like they do to the American citizens. I'm talking about our own government. Reads one of PLA Daily's reports called The Future of the Concept of Military Supremacy. According to the Washington Times, the Chinese researchers have been studying integrating humans and machines toward the goal of creating enhanced human physiological and cognitive capacities, as well as working on the brain's defenses against brain control attacks. What in the hell's Musk been doing with all of his craziness, right? I mean, is that not trying to integrate humans and machines? I mean, we've got a lot of doctors and whatnot working tirelessly at achieving this type of stuff. Okay, and some of it's for good reason. I'm not saying it's all nefarious, that it's all warfare. Some of it's for good reason. But, you know, I don't understand really why they're wanting to point fingers at China and stuff like that. If you look at even some of the weaponry that we're aware of, holy cow. You know about the LRAD system, or at least you probably know a little bit about the LRAD system. You may know that it stands for Long Range Acoustic Device, and you've probably heard it or seen it deployed. They use it a lot at different protests and stuff like that. It's a really, really super loud speaker that you hear blaring very annoying noises. That's typically the LRAD. But that's not the limits of the capabilities. They do it to deter people, to get people to move away from the area. But they can actually turn it up to where it becomes very painful and very uncomfortable. And if that isn't enough, they can actually turn it up loud enough that it will blow your eardrums. They can turn it up loud enough that it can kill you. Not everybody knows about that. They also have microwave weapons. You can Google this. It's not some big super secret. They can literally cook you from the inside out from the top of a Humvee. Again, not top secret. Microwave weapons have been around for a real long time. And, I'm supposed to, I kind of wonder if this is somehow trying to lead into the whole Havana syndrome thing. So I don't know. Anyway, thought it was probably something important to mention. China urges Russia to cooperate against U.S. hegemony, and it says the U.S. is putting pressure on China and Russia on all fronts, and the two must continue to deepen strategic cooperation on all fronts, Beijing's ambassador to Moscow declared on Thursday. Speaking to newspaper Izvestia, Zhang Hanhu said that working together was essential to counter U.S. and Western pressure. The U.S., along with its Western allies, is putting pressure on China and Russia on all fronts: political, economic, military, humanitarian, security, science, and technology, he said. In response to such overt hegemony and power politics, we must continue to deepen back-to-back strategic cooperation. In addition, the diplomat stressed Western countries were exercising extraterritorial jurisdiction and arbitrarily applying sanctions on the two nations' government agencies, enterprises, and personnel in an attempt to stifle their development. On December 15th, during a video conference with Chinese President Xi Jinping, Russian President Vladimir Putin described their relations as a true model of cooperation in the 21st century. In recent years, as both countries have become more adversarial with the U.S., the two leaders have become closer, with Xi even once referring to Putin as his best friend. This is stuff we need to really put in the back of our heads and understand, because I'm telling you, we do not want conflict right now. I mean, we can bullshit ourselves all we want. That ain't going to change the facts. We don't want conflict right now. We do not have the upper hand. Okay, I think next... I don't know why I opened that one. Next up is Russia. Russia. We only got a couple on that, and then we got some on COVID, but not many, and then we'll get to the regular headlines. Hell, I'm covering most of them. There wasn't, again, today it wasn't just absolutely filled with headlines like it had been prior to Christmas, so it's still a little bit relaxed. Hang on, I'm sharing out a headline that I noticed was up there. Way at a beat there when we get there. Alright. West would screw itself by cutting Russia off from SWIFT, says Moscow. And it says if the West follows through with its threats to shut Moscow out of the SWIFT financial transaction system, other states will feel the consequences, Russia's finance minister has cautioned. Speaking as part of an interview with Rossiya 24 TV channel on Thursday, Anton Silunov warned who benefits from the disconnection from SWIFT? No one. They only screw themselves over, as they say, the minister said, pointing out that Russia is a participant in the global market. According to Silunov, such a move would hinder European companies that actively trade with Moscow. What will happen to European consumers of hydrocarbons if SWIFT is cut off in Russia? How will they pay us? Or will they refuse our exports? No, of course not. Will they have to settle the payment? Yes, he explained. So, they bring up good points. I honestly don't think that, our country in many ways is acting and has been acting like Dumb and Dumber. And so, just because it logically wouldn't make sense does not mean that they won't do it. Believe me. Kremlin is pleased with the Biden-Putin talks, but warns against colossal mistake. As you probably know, there was a talk today between Biden and Putin because tensions have been escalating between a multitude of countries. And so they more or less wanted to have, I believe it was Russia that requested it, wanted to have some more talks right away so that they could get a clear line of understanding. So this says Moscow is pleased with the results of the new phone talks between Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Joe Biden. Putin's aide has said Putin has, however, warned the U.S. against escalating Russia's sanctions policy. In a statement released after the phone talks between the Russian leader and his U.S. counterpart, the Kremlin revealed that Biden made a pledge to Putin not to deploy offensive arms to Ukraine. Biden made it clear that the U.S. does not intend to deploy offensive strike weapons in Ukraine. Yuri Ushakov, Putin's foreign policy advisor, said, speaking to the Russian media. So, I am sure, and if you followed much of the statements from Putin and other individuals from Russia over the course of the last even couple of weeks, you already know, or you should know, that in the eyes of Putin and the Russian leadership, they don't trust whatsoever the words of the United States. They know that the United States is known for saying one thing and doing another, diplomatically. And so I wouldn't hold a lot of weight with any of this, and I guarantee you the Russians aren't holding a lot of weight with any of this. So, just saying, just because they say they're pleased with the talk, doesn't mean they actually believe it. Okay, now we're moving on. Fears of avian flu strain jumping to humans amid massive outbreak. Well, they got to ramp something else up, right? I'm not going to sit there and read into that. Twitter suspends virologist Robert Malone, right? The account of Dr. Robert Malone. This isn't just anybody, right? A veteran vaccine researcher and a prominent voice of skepticism on the issue of universal inoculation against COVID-19 has been suspended by Twitter. Malone's account had over 516,000 followers when the platform silenced him on Wednesday. It remains unclear if the suspension was automatic or done by human. Twitter gave no immediate comment. Now here's what blows my mind. Okay? And I didn't read this part up here because I've been trying to ignore that part up there because a lot of times it totally repeats it right here. But it says, Big Tech has silenced the U.S. vaccine researcher famous for helping invent mRNA technology. So he literally was one of the people that helped invent it. And Twitter is silencing him. I think there's a problem there. CDC justifies shorter isolation. I'm not going to read that. You've heard a dozen people talk about it and laugh at it and all of that stuff, I'm sure. Having unvaxxed kids doesn't make any sense, Fauci says. Well, I would argue that you, Fauci, don't make any sense. But, you know. Millions in Canada under COVID-19 curfew on New Year's Eve. So I'll read a few paragraphs of this real quick. It says more than 8.5 million Canadians have been ordered to remain at home for New Year's celebrations, with the provincial government of Quebec imposing a curfew and a ban on private gatherings amid the spread of the Omicron variant. Quebec Premier Francis Legault announced the policies on Thursday, saying that they would come into effect at 10 p.m. on Friday, New Year's Eve, while warning that the spike in coronavirus cases could overwhelm the region's healthcare system. If we do nothing, there is a real risk that our hospitals will overflow over the next few weeks, and then we will no longer be able to treat everyone, he said in a tweet, later adding that officials must act quickly and strike a big blow to the virus. So, we got that going on. Reminds me of a picture. I saw a conversation on Facebook earlier, and somebody had posted a picture of, I guess it was 3 of the at-home test. I'm assuming it was the at-home test, and it was 3 of them, and supposedly one of them had something like plant water, another one had tap water, and another one had bottled water, and the only one that did not show a positive COVID test was the one that had bottled water. If I understood it correctly. And their point was being that people are catching it through the water. Like through your tap water. And it's like, okay, how would that even remotely happen? Do you know how many chemicals are put into your water? I'm talking tap water. How many chemicals are put into that water? All the chlorine, the fluoride, you name it. Yeah, I don't see much much along the viruses that's going to live in that. In fact, I'm kind of surprised that humans live on it. It's pretty crazy when you know what they put in it. My ears are bothering me. I need to get better headphones. Okay. Let me read through these headlines. Let me jump the heck out of here and be done for the week. Friendly family man's 50-year-old secret, he was a fugitive too. Yeah, nobody knew. This guy actually robbed a bank. He actually robbed a bank like when he was like 20 or something like that. He was involved in a bank robbery. And then he just went out and got an assumed identity and lived under that identity and, married, had a family. Nobody knew. So on his deathbed, he revealed the truth about it. And I thought that was interesting because I have seen many cases of people that like live double lives and stuff like that. Some guy that have 2 families or whatever, and he'll bounce back and forth from one family to the other. And I guess they have excuses as to like why they go away on a business trip or whatever the case may be. And they literally live 2 lives with 2 different families, and it happens. It's crazy, it's bizarre, but it happens. And I kind of laugh because there's a lot of people that claim that they look into me and they're like, well, I don't see anything that's special. And my biggest question to them is, what name did you look under? You guys know me from my birth name. Y'all know me from my birth name, when I was born, blah, 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 blah. That ain't the only name I've done stuff under. Not anything bad, mind you. Not any of it. Never anything bad. But there are just some things that I don't want attention. I do not want attention. Let's see. Fauci to collect fattest government retirement package in U.S. history. I bet you're all surprised with that, right? Covered that. ECHR urges Russia to suspend dissolution of NGO memorial. Senator mistakes Western Australia for Washington State. Let's see. Study reveals COVID vaccine fears of Russians. 5 years for murder, 4 years for pissing. Pardon me. Russian human rights chief slams sentencing. So, a 19-year-old kid urinated on a portrait of a Russian World War II veteran, and that was his punishment, was 4 years for doing that. So, Putin changes Russian passport rules. A minister's mom comes out to the media to apologize for him. He was late, so his mommy literally came out and apologized on his behalf. I don't know if he still lives in her basement or not, but let's see, no, I covered that one. Queen's Guard filmed mowing over boy in their path. Drunk Irishman arrested for breaking into parliamentary palace. China unveils new plan to spearhead robot revolution. Let's see. England to open COVID surge hubs amid Omicron wave. Space colonists. This is always gets you to look forward to the future. Space colonists may turn to cannibalism, scientists warn. Well, that's certainly a bright future. Putin seeking compromise with Biden in Thursday call, says the Kremlin. We kind of talked about that. Joe Rogan cancels Canada event over vaccine mandates. I'm sure you probably all heard about that, or most of you. Jingle Bells gets canceled by a New York school. Who knew? Such a racist, inappropriate song. When does it end? Poland's Pegasus snooping likely tip of the iceberg, says an expert. George W. Bush's startling admission to UK ambassador is revealed. No, I don't even know what it is, to be honest. Transgender rules are an assault on women's sport, warns Hall of Fame swimming coach. Yep, you're going to get canceled, dude. Mercedes-Benz pulls Chinese slanted eyes ad after backlash. Iran's domestically built space rocket takes off. And look, it doesn't quite look as much like a penis as Bezos' ship. Imagine that. Woman quarantines in plane toilet over positive COVID test. China's zero COVID policy faces major challenge. What, you run out of welding wire to weld people in their apartment buildings or something? CDC justifies shorter... I didn't say that, did I? CDC justifies shorter isolation. U.S. media reports claim China deep in... Oh, I covered that one, sorry. UK government's advice on word Brexit raises eyebrows. Bank hands out millions in Christmas blunder. Yeah, I guess they double paid a bunch of people. And so now they're trying to get it back. And when I read stuff like this, because from time to time stuff like this happens, I sit there and I think about how Monopoly has lied to us all these years. Because, right, you got the card in Monopoly where you get the bank error in your favor. No, the bank error is never in your favor. They take that back. They take that back. And in fact, in reality, if you were to keep it or spend it, you're probably going to go to jail. So how come that wasn't the rules of the Monopoly game? Okay, you landed on community chest. Here's your card. Bank error in your favor, $10. So you take the $10, and next thing you know, you go to jail. See, that's reality. UK hired U.S. lawyers to advise on Monica Lewinsky affair. Safety fears spark recall of 475,000 Teslas. Mine wasn't one of them, because I ain't got one. Let's see. U.S. flies spy plane over eastern Ukraine. Chinese footballers face punishment from authorities for tattoos. A Parliament building set on fire during protest. Covered that. Details of secret Epstein deal with Prince Andrew accuser to be made public. Fake snow means irresponsible Olympics could be held on the moon or Mars. Okay. Putin didn't order annexation threat against Ukraine, says Kadyrov. U.S. Navy seizes drugs worth millions. Covered that. News anchor's appearance makes headlines. A Maori woman is a news anchor, and they have like chin tattoos. She's got a chin tattoo, so there's a lot of pss, 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 and I think it's ridiculous. I really do. That's the lady right there, and yeah, here's a better picture of her. And so there's a lot of people, I guess, that can't get over themselves. I don't know. I don't think it's anything. I don't think it's no big deal. Look, she's a news anchor. Sorry. If I'm not supposed to think anything of the rapper that's got 500 tattoos on their face, why would I supposed to be thinking anything about a news anchor that, for spiritual reasons, right, has one on her face? Absolutely not. Welcome to the news. BBC sorry for interview on Maxwell trial. Pussy Riot founder added to Russian's foreign agent list. Sorry, I read the headline. Fears of avian flu strain jumping to humans. I covered that headline anyway. Coal silo blast sends shockwave across U.S. city. That happened in Baltimore. Top 5 new Russian export weapons are named, including the Checkmate. Man, that's a badass plane, I must say. Drug company found liable in landmark opioid case. And it makes me wonder, this is Teva, I believe, pharmaceutical industries. And it makes me wonder if what's going to happen is all the smaller companies are all going to take the fall for the opioid crisis, and the big players in it, I have a feeling, are just pretty much going to walk. It's the way it usually goes. Putin and Biden hold... I covered that. CDC says avoid cruise ships regardless of vaccine status. Probably pretty solid advice. And that would be even pre-COVID. African nation lifts COVID-19 curfew. Covered that. I covered that one. Thousands flee U.S. towns over fast-spreading wildfires. Elon Musk sparks debate with controversial COVID meme. Covered that one. Netherlands forces unvaxxed and vaxxed Americans to quarantine. That's it. That is what is the headlines for today. And I'm going to get the hell out of here for the week and kind of try to chillax and unwind. Won't happen, but I can always dream, right? Anyway, I hope you all have a good weekend. God willing, we'll be back Sunday night. We'll do it again. Hope to see you then. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit, if I can speak. And shalom.